Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you. Councilmember Kaplan? Here. Councilmember Tao? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes will be absent. Councilmember Valenzuela?
Here.
Vice Mayor Maple?
Here.
Councilmember Guerra?
Here.
Councilmember Jennings?
Here.
Councilmember Vang?
Here.
And Mayor Steinberg.
I am here. Councilmember Jennings, would you please give us the honor of doing the land acknowledgement, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I absolutely will, Mayor. Please rise for the opening acknowledgement in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisean people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, the Patwin Whitman peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the native land, Native people who came before us and still walk beside us on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather together in the practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contribution, and lives. Now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilmember Jennings, very good afternoon, everyone. Let us begin with the consent calendar. Are there questions or items that members would like to discuss or have separate votes on? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to commend our city staff. I serve on the Regional Water Authority, and this River Arc project is really just another way of how do we look at our watersheds and our water here in Sacramento for best practices, as well as, you know, looking at water mitigation and how we save water and use it in the future. And this River Arc project is just one of those. And so I just want to thank Brett Ewert, who is the chair of the Regional Water Authority, who is leading the city on this, as well as staff, and appreciation for all that they're doing.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Do we have public testimony on the consent calendar?
I have one speaker, Mac Worthy, on agenda item number 1 on the consent calendar.
Good afternoon, people. When we look at the consent calendar and then we look at what you are speaking to, were any public information on how much money that you are spending in those districts? See, that could be billions of dollars spent and the public don't know because this is wide open. District 3, District A, subsidized maintenance, and then neighborhood water. Well, what's the dollar? That's what the public, we don't have in Northern California, the business educated people, they just accept garbage and don't question. See, I was in the business for 59 years here in Sacramento. That's the reason I can question when I see stuff down here. What is this you're saying? What is the dollar you spending? This city is in the hole already. This city is sad in the hole already. This city should start laying off some people, and I can explain to you where those dollars are being falsely spent. Also, things about SMUD. Wake up. I tried to show Carl when he was out there, no local government should ever own a utility. We are spending billions of dollars up there and get nothing back for it through SMUD because the city owns it. We don't get no information on how much come in per month on SMUD. We don't get the audit. We get something that the state, I call and they said, well, Mr. Wood, the right or something? And no, I don't come in no late. That was about the homeless. We want outside audit. And you pay, an audit firm got a certified accountant to come in here and take that audit, item to item, and show the general public in Northern California who is being pimped and robbed.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor. I have no more speakers on consent.
All right. We need a motion and a second and a third and a fourth. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, oppose, abstain. Very good. It passes unanimously. Let's get to the public hearing and the discussion calendar. We have a fee schedule update, and then we'll get to the capital improvement program, part of our city budget, and then we'll get to the budget equity tool, which I'm really looking forward to. Mr. Coletto?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, members of the public. Pete Coletto, the Finance Director. We just wanted to start off with the updated budget schedule after last Tuesday's meeting. So as the Mayor mentioned, today you'll have 3 budget items, starting with the public hearing on fees and charges, capital plan, the pilot equity analysis. Next Tuesday will be council's deliberations and direction on the proposed budget. And then we're still shooting for June 11th for final budget adoption. And with that, I'd like to introduce Jason Bader to discuss the fees and charges.
Good afternoon, Mayor Steinberg and council members. My name is Jason Bader with the Finance Department. The item before you is the public hearing for the citywide annual fee schedule updates. The citywide fee and charge policy sets the guidelines to determine cost recovery levels and establishes a process to add, modify, and delete fees and charges. All fees included in the report qualify as exceptions to Proposition 26, which prohibits the city from increasing taxes by defining them as fees. This year, staff is recommending adding 55 new fees, modifying 757 fees, and deleting 19 fees for a total of 831 changes affecting 9 departments. This will generate approximately $2.3 million of revenue for the general fund and $525,000 of revenue for the other funds. The associated revenue adjustments are necessary to provide appropriate cost recovery related to city programs and services, and they are included as part of the proposed FY 24-25 budget. On May 7th, the Budget and Audit Committee reviewed and recommended approval of all fee adjustments. If you have specific questions about items included in the report, we have staff available from all 9 departments here today. Staff is recommending that the council pass a resolution approving the citywide fee and charge schedule updates. Thank you.
Just to be clear, in the proposed city manager budget, there are a number of items related to, for example, eliminating fee waivers for some programs, specifically around youth. Are those things implicated in this resolution, or is this separate from what is contained within the proposed 24-25 budget?
So, Mayor, those fee waivers would be separate. I think the other thing that's important.
I think you want to. Yeah, that's okay.
It's a
Pete.
low one.
Yeah, that's all right.
So, Mayor, those fee waivers are separate. But I think the thing that's important to note here is that any direction your council gives at next week's meeting regarding changes to the proposed budget will be incorporated. If those impact the fees, those will be incorporated in the final budget that comes to you on the 11th.
So why are we taking this up now as opposed to when we pass the final budget in June?
So I think this is a
It
requirement.
was a noticed public hearing
Yes.
on the 5th and the 7th, so we had already brought it forward. So when you push things
Okay.
out a week, we already had it.
Okay, but as you're saying, if there is any crossover, the subsequent budget action would.
Correct. We
Override
would
that.
then bring forward the necessary actions to make those
Then
adjustments.
fair enough. I just want to make sure we're not making final decisions on some things that are still part of the budget. Okay. Is there public testimony?
Mayor, I have 2 speakers.
Oh, Lisa, Councilmember Kaplan? Okay, go ahead.
Guy Stevenson, then Mac Worthy.
That was a good move, Mayor, because you people are the ones that put this city into debt. So now you want to go after the taxpayers to pay more taxes. Imagine that. Isn't that how government works? You know, the only people that should get increases into the budget is the police department, the fire department. All these other programs that you're cutting, you're the ones that put these problems in place. Because you people like to spend. And you don't think about it until a budget needs to be passed. It's nonsense. But that's the way government works. You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, I said, you know, when people get themselves into these problems, they need to figure out a way to get themselves out of it. And going after the taxpayers for increase in the these parking meters. I heard that they want to do that. Why? You're going after the people because you made bad decisions. So you want to point fingers at the taxpayers. They're not the problem. The problem is the city government's problem because they like to spend. They just want to spend all the time. Then they get into these big debts, and then they got to dig their way out of it. So what do? They go after the people. I don't agree with it, and I've been fighting West Sacramento. Hopefully in November, they will not pass this tax increase because I don't care. You put yourselves in that position, get yourselves out of it. Sorry, but that's how I feel.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Our next speaker is Mac Worthy, then Tiffany Clark.
As the associate just spoke, is telling you facts, people. You got to price yourself out of the city. The dollar per household just can't afford it. This should have went on the ballot of increase. You can't increase the property tax. You only can tell the people your property improved 1% per face value. We Republicans set that ceiling at least 20-some years ago. Property is 1%. And none of you go downtown and request a bank to check your value of your property and see what you're paying. The poor neighbors can't do it. They just don't have the knowledge. Your neighborhood association, that's sickening. And we're looking at things here that fees. You put a budget by fees. People, that's the reason business is not here. I saw See's Candies go out of business. When you see a candy store go out of business, something is wrong. You don't have people here know what's going on in tax. District 3 young lady said she don't know why the money is being spent in Nontatomas as much as it's being spent. You live there and you haven't asked the question, the city maintenance. The other would spend more money in those areas because they pay more money in your tax. Ask them why my property that the same square footage is less value as their property. And I will start telling you who is pimping the people in the city. You all start laying off now. And I can show you the areas you can start laying off. Street work and smud. I saw something when cutting some trees in front of my house. It was pitiful. They looked at 5 men. As little boys throwing limbs out too. It's sad, people. What about the pulpwood that we put on our shoulders in South Carolina and took it to a truck? Weighed almost 100 pounds.
Your comments, your time is complete. Tiffany Clark, then
wake up,
Keegan
people.
Clark.
Good afternoon, Mayor Steinberg, council members, staff. My name is Tiffany Clark. I was here last week urging the city to reject the 2 dramatic and I believe inequitable fee increases targeting home occupations or home businesses. Here this time, and to instead front load much needed and promised reform of the home occupation rules. Here to talk briefly about why those reforms are needed, and to give a couple of examples from my own family. Most cities regulate nuisance-producing home businesses and set limits, how much visitor traffic, employees, customers, clients can come to the home per day with the goal, and commercial vehicles and so on, with the goal of reducing the total impact so that it's indistinguishable from normal and usual residential activity, which is great, and the city does that. However, the city takes it to a whole new level by also regulating home office, basically home office business, today's pandemic work-at-home businesses, requiring that they not only obtain a home occupation permit, which be increased by over 50% under the proposed fee increases, but also limit each household to at most 2 home businesses, home office businesses, at most 3 involved residents, sharing 1 otherwise permitted ordinary household vehicle between them, and maximally only using up to 10% of the home square footage, regardless of the size of the home. There are a lot of examples I could give, but I have a couple for my own family. My husband is not able to make it today. He'll speak tonight, but my young adult son, one of my young adult sons will speak to his situation. But suffice it to say, for young people with years passing, they don't have until 2029 to wait until reform. They don't have over $5,200 under the proposed fee hike to request an exemption. We don't want to incentivize them moving out when we're trying to, in the middle of a housing crisis, when we're trying to incentivize extended family living by rezoning and so on. So I urge you.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is
Thank you.
complete.
Hold on
So
one sec,
Keegan
please.
Clark and Elliot Clark.
Excuse me 1 second. After the public testimony, maybe after my colleagues ask the questions, I'd like just some feedback on Ms. Clark's testimony because she's come a couple of weeks. I'd like to hear about what this proposal actually is and staff's response. Please, thank you.
Hello, my name is Elliot Clark, son of Tiffany Clark, and I've wanted to have my own game development business since I was 13 years old. I created my first video game then, which now has over 15,000 downloads. And I would have chosen to monetize this business. However, I can't even make it a business because our residence already has the maximum of 2 home businesses. This maximum of 2 home businesses this rule was created decades ago when a business like mine, computer-based business, couldn't even exist. Presumably, it was created with the assumption that any business, any home-based business would create some kind of disruption to the neighborhood, and thus by limiting the total number of businesses in a home, you were thereby lowering the disruption in the neighborhood. However, by not only could you have just limited the factors themselves, the disruption factors themselves, by doing it the way they did, they prevent a situation like me, a business situation like me from existing, where my business would create 0 impact on the neighborhood. I just work on my computer all day. I probably make more disruption as a college student going to and from college than I would working at my home as a game developer. So I can't make my business because of these rules. So what am I to do? Well, A, I could break the law. B, I could move out of my home with the funds that I don't have from my non-existent business. Or C, I could pay for an exception, which is currently thousands of dollars and is about to be raised by over $1,000 to a total fee of over $5,200, and then wait up to 6 months for a public hearing where I could be rejected, and then all that money goes to waste. So needless to say, all these options are horrible. And thus, I'm urging you to please, in the short term, not raise these fees, making it even harder for someone like me to make an exception to these rules that the city agrees are terrible, and to please prioritize reform. We can't wait until 2029 for these to be considered, this reform to be considered.
Thank you for your comments. And Keegan?
Hello, I am the eldest son of Tiffany Clark, and I am the second home business on our residence. I am the reason that my father and my brother cannot register their own home businesses, despite the fact that what I do is just like what my brother wants to do, albeit differently. I am an independent musician, and I operate solely online, and I produce on my computer with headphones on. I don't make any loud noises. I don't have any instruments. I don't cause a disruption or like a noise. There's no noise complaints going on. I'm not that disruptive with my music or anything. It's all just online, and I feel like my presence as a home business in our home really shouldn't make any difference or change the way the city operates in any way. I don't know. I just feel like I feel like what my brother wants to do wouldn't affect much of anything, simply because, I mean, what we're doing on the computer could be done basically anywhere, and I would prefer to operate my business at my home, where I'm most comfortable and where, and the situation where is, most realistic for me in my current situation financially. And that's basically all I have to say, except for just I urge, yeah, I guess that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor, I have no more speakers.
All right, thank you. Let's turn it over to the members.
My turn to talk. I put in a slip.
No.
Yeah,
Councilmember Kaplan, please sit down, or else we're going to ask you to leave.
I put in a slip. It's my turn to talk.
You're not at-
Her filing a restraining order to stop my free speech is not gonna stop my free
Okay.
speech. It's my
You cannot come up to the lectern. If you continue disrupting the meeting, we're going to ask you to leave.
turn to speak. No, it's my turn.
It's time to go. Grab
No,
your stuff.
it's my turn to speak.
It's time to go.
It is my turn to speak.
We're going to take a 5-minute
This is what you do to
recess.
free speech in America? This is what you do to free speech? You guys are not letting me have it.
The council is back in session after a brief recess. We are in the middle of the debate and discussion about the fee schedule. Let me turn it over to Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like a follow-up, especially if this is something we can clean up. I think it is old and archaic. If there is a rule, what surrounds it with a maximum of only two businesses per household. Times have changed, especially because of the pandemic. If there is some way that we can relook at that, I think it is absolutely valid and viable of what's the reasoning behind it, and does it still make sense anymore? I don't think we need to make any determination now. I just think it's something good to look into. And then I do have a question on Public Works, on the graph that was shown in regards to parking, and it shows new fees. My one question is, while there's an estimate that it could bring in an additional $195,000, how much of that savings will be offset? Because now we'll be required to go through the city and change all of our parking signs, especially if we are changing the time of when we are charging fees. What will the actual cost be for changing the signs, and does it make sense?
Sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. So when we change signs...
Identify yourself for the record.
Oh, my name is Matt Ironman. I am the Director of Public Works, and I'm accompanied by Stacy Hovermill, who is the Parking Services Manager. So when we do change signs, we don't necessarily need to go out and change the full sign. If it's a time or a day change, we'll just put an overlay over the sign, so it's very minimal cost to do that. And we do that all the time through our internal shops.
Okay, I think just looking at it, because I think we're getting rid of, like, part of it is Sunday, which I hope we don't get rid of free Sunday, but just if there is a cost, I think when we look at part of the fee savings, I think for the greater picture for all of them, not just Public Works, is by these changes, are they actually going to have actual costs to implement? I think is just important to look at, not only just Public Works.
And those costs are built into the revenue projection. So we actually did look at the cost of what that signage
Of course you did. You guys are great. Of course you did.
It's a net cost in the budget,
Okay.
or a net additional revenue, net of cost.
I'll figure it out. So with the numbers here is the actual savings based on the cost that would cost to implement. Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much. Okay. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt and Stacy, for chatting with me before council. I won't make you come back up here. You can go sit down. So I just had some comments on, I think in general, I mean, labor costs have gone up. And so to me, it makes sense that our fees go up because it's covering staff time. And so there's like a very basic math here that has to be done on if our staff are getting paid more, which I'm glad they are, that our fees go up related to paying that because an hour of your time costs different. It's math. So I think the parking fees issue for me, I think almost every meter in the city is in my district, I'm pretty sure, pretty darn close anyways. So had a lot of thoughts on some of these. I appreciate the logic behind both looking at other cities for what they charge, which I think makes a lot of sense, trying to be reasonable in our increase, but also recognizing we're still pretty far behind what other cities do. And so I appreciate that maybe there's more growth in the future there. Some of these safety issues though, I like the logic of charging more for things that are more urgent on safety issues, like parking in a bike lane should be $100. That's pretty blatant. We've updated the lanes across Midtown. They're all painted green. If you're parking there, you know you're parking there. And so you should have to pay a higher fee. Some of the ones that didn't get higher though, like there was parking on a railroad track. vehicle stopped or parked in the opposite direction of traffic, that didn't get the higher fee that I actually would like to see be higher. We still have I have a lot of one-way streets in my district, and the number of times you see cars parked or going in different ways, I think that is a much more urgent safety issue that deserves, if not the $60 rate, maybe even a higher rate in some cases, especially if they're moving in the opposite direction of traffic, because that's a really major safety issue that we see happen around here all the time. When it comes to potentially lowering, though, so the no parking certain hours, and I know I talked to you about whether it's possible to separate like residential versus commercial, because in commercial zones, you have no parking because there's loading zones, or they're using it as an extra turn lane, or they're doing things that are important for the flow of traffic. But every residential street in Midtown, for those who don't live here, every single person who lives in Midtown has to rotate their cars on a daily basis. You can't park on certain sides of the street in your neighborhood because of city services, which makes sense from a logistical perspective. We've got trash, we've got other things that happen that need to happen, but like there is not a person who lives in Midtown who does not get multiple of these tickets, and it's not because of neglect. It's usually because you just forgot what day of the week it was, because how many of us wake up first thing in the morning and are like, it's Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, my car needs to go move. It's a really easy mistake to make, and it hits renters in my district. The average income in my district is still $32,000 a year, and so I'm very sensitive to the fact that raising that to $60 instead of $50 from a policy perspective doesn't make sense. And so I would like to suggest that that go to 50 instead of 60. And the same for when meters expire. And I appreciate that folks might abuse the meter system and say, I'm just going to race in and race out. I'm sure we've all done it. Like, I'm only going to be 5 minutes. I don't have to pay the meter. I'll just go. But, increasing it to $60 feels overly punitive, especially if somebody is just a few minutes behind, because our parking staff is excellent at what they do. And sometimes, it'll be 5-10 minutes past the time and you've already got a parking ticket on your windshield, and folks are trying their best, I think, to make this work in the central city in particular. So that would be my direction, Mayor. I think for some of the more, particularly going in the opposite direction of traffic or parking on railroad tracks, I think should be $60. No parking certain hours, and meter expired, I'd like to be 50 instead of $60. And those are my only major changes. And I just want to thank Matt and Stacy for what I think was a very thorough analysis, for you explaining it to me. And
Unless there's some major objection, it sounds
yeah,
pretty
it's
simple.
minor tweaks. I think we're
You've thought through it. I don't know. Does staff have any response
sorry, Matt, you just sat back
to
down.
this suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to run the numbers on what that
impact?
means, but from a policy perspective, that's kind of my
But
argument.
we're voting today is the only thing. I guess I can still be changed in the budget, so let's figure out.
Yeah.
What's your response?
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. Matt Ironman, I used to be the parking manager, but I am now the Director of Public Works. So the reason we looked at parking meter expired, raising it, is that we use a tier-based pricing method, in which we use more pricing to get people to move along than the enforcement, so it's compliance over enforcement. And it's upwards of $60, so someone to take a risk. And so people play the game all day long, and if they don't get a parking citation, then they win, right? And so what we're trying to do is keep traffic moving and keep the spaces turning over. So, and then when it comes to no parking certain hours, we do have a mix of residential, and then we also have a mix of safety violations, like lanes that turn into commercial corridors and extra lanes to maneuver traffic. So we were very thoughtful in our approach on this, and we looked at the number of issuance that each citation was issued. So some of the ones that you talked about, parking on a railroad track, we don't really get those types of citations, and I think the ultimate would be that a train would demolish the vehicle. So we don't really have those types of violations, so we didn't see moving those up. So
And if I can just add, so those changes would have a revenue impact. We don't know what that is right now, but we'd have to come back.
So, Councilmember Valenzuela, do you want the revenue impact before we vote on this, or not? It's okay.
I mean, I would like to vote on it, and then we can talk about it in the budget if it needs to be adjusted. I think the policy thing, I think if I really wanted to hone in, for me, it's the no parking certain hours. And I know we talked about it would require council ordinance to separate commercial from residential no parking certain hours, because like if you're closing a lane next to Cesar Chavez because that's a turn lane now or loading zone, that's one thing. If you live on, a Midtown Street and the trash trucks have to come back, which I know is a big deal, no defense to the solid waste folks, then that's a different safety thing. So, I mean, maybe we could start with saying it's $50 instead of $60, and if we need to make more nuanced changes, we could adjust the code to commercial.
So Councilmember Valenzuela is asking for a vote today. You'll then have several weeks, Mr. Coletto, hold on, please, to come back with the revenue issue, and if it needs to be changed, it can be changed. The order can be either way, but I kind of want to respect the council.
It is a lot of tickets, but those are all my residents in my district, so I want to be conscious of the equity impacts of that as well.
Well, the other option is to come back next week with the information, so your choice, council member.
Well, let's vote on the 50, making it 50, and that'll be the only change. I had other changes in here, but if I say no parking, certain hours, $50 instead of $60, I think that could be part of the motion, then
Okay.
I would be happy to stick.
So that's, okay. When the motion is made, the maker of the motion has been asked to incorporate that
I
into
can
the
make that
motion.
motion right now.
Why
I
don't
see
you
only
make
one
that
more hand up.
motion?
Yeah, so I'll open and close the public hearing, and I'll move this item with the change that no parking certain hours be adjusted to $50 instead of $60.
Okay, is there a second on the motion? Second by Councilmember Guerra, Vice Mayor Maple.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And apologies for not sending some of these in advance. It was quite a dense document, so, but appreciate all staff for putting together something really thorough for us to review. So, we put this out to the District 5 Community Cabinet, and I'm really glad to hear both Councilmember Valenzuela bring up equity, but also our next item around equity in the budget, too. It's something I think about a lot in District 5, where we have a lot of really underserved communities that often are not receiving the same level of service as some others, and it's a key concern. So when I sent our agenda out to our District 5 Community Cabinet, which is all of our residents and faith leaders and small business owners, one of the biggest concerns that I heard back from them was around the changes to the YPC, so the Youth Parks and Community Enrichment fee schedules, though I do understand, maybe these are some questions for Ms. Jackie. Sorry to put you on the spot. So I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So if I'm understanding this right now, YPC is currently only getting about 20% cost recovery across the entire department under the current budget. Is that right?
Good afternoon, Jackie Beecham,
Thank
Director
you.
of Youth Parks and Community Enrichment. It varies. It ranges depending on the type of program, community center facility use. We have a diversity of programs and services and offerings, but we aren't really reaching cost recovery with hardly any of our programs, with the exception of some of our higher fee-based programs like the 4th-hour childcare program.
Got it, awesome. And so recognizing that, seeing that there's a real need obviously across all of our departments in our budget to fill the gap that we have, but also recognizing what YPC provides to like our youth and our communities. One of the things, so there's the increases, and then there's also a scholarship program that's a new program?
So that's an existing program, but our recommendation is going to be to expand that program and allow some dedicated funding that has been specific to youth sports field usage to be expanded to overall youth programs and community center uses.
Okay, and so then that would create, so then if there were, let's say, youth in the neighborhoods that I represent that are typically, lower income, they would be able to apply through the scholarship program. I guess one of the questions I have around that is, well, one, it's creating an additional barrier, understandable that why we need it, but do we look at what the admin cost is to have going through a scholarship program and what that approval process would be, and we determined that would actually still be a better cost-benefit analysis to do all of that?
Yeah, so we haven't taken a deep dive into fully administering that program to the recommendation that we're bringing forward, but it's been an existing program that's been in place for several years. So we already have a system of outreach, a system of qualifying families, meeting our youth and our families where they're at, supporting them through that process at our community centers, not just online. So we have 12 community centers across the city. The program's also available at our swimming pools, and our customer service staff are trained to support youth and families through that process. So we don't anticipate the additional administrative work. We already have a system in place to be able to support the community.
And you're not
staff.
necessarily expecting a significant increase in the number of people that might be applying?
We could see an increase in the number of people applying because we're expanding it beyond just swim lessons. We're expanding it to some of our camps that have historically been free, that were including a nominal fee. So what was previously a free program is now a $15 program for an entire week of care. Still a nominal fee, but we still recognize that that could create a financial barrier for families. So we have a process in place that can support families through that application process.
Awesome. Great. I think that's it for my questions. I appreciate it. And I think, for me personally, I'll be doing some work with you and your team to make sure that we're helping get out the word on that, if that's the council's will moving forward, just making sure that our families know about it. And I also recognize that there's just a lot of challenges right now to fill these gaps. So this is one of the things that we're looking at. The other thing, just generally speaking, that we heard a lot from residents, and it's just a big concern, is Sacramento is a really hot city, and a lot of our lower income families and residents use our pools as a way to literally escape from the heat, sometimes when they don't even have air conditioning in their homes or any number of other things. So I just want to be, eyes wide open where, some people may not feel like an increase in the pool fees may impact them, but it might have a really big impact on some of our lower income families too. So again, we'll just make sure that we're getting the word out on the help that's available, and just hopefully there's no barriers in terms of creating additional paperwork for folks.
So on the YPSI fee issue, I would just tell you in preview of the letter that we are preparing, the mayor's letter that will put forward to you all and put forward publicly by the end of the week. We've been working very closely with Jackie and the YPSI team to sort of ask a lot of the same questions that you've been asking, Vice Mayor, about scholarships, the administrative costs, the access, because not everyone knows about scholarship. Is there a way, a little preview here, to have categories of actual fee waivers that account, at least try to approximate and differentiate between people and communities of lower income and people of and communities that more often than not could afford the full fee amount. So we're working on that, and I hope by Thursday or Friday that we might have a proposal that won't be my original idea, but that is in conjunction with YPSI to try to make that better.
Great. Okay, and I really appreciate and thank you so much for your hard work. I know these are, you run a department that has a lot of need and never has enough money or staff, even if we're fully funded, and has everything we need in the budget. So I know this has been really difficult for you to kind of identify where some of these cuts need to happen. And really interested to read your letter and the proposal. I just want to make another pitch. I know we're already, we've talked a lot about equity, but language access as well. So another, barrier for a lot of the communities that I represent is making sure that everything's available in a language that they can understand, making sure that the actual paperwork process is not so cumbersome so that families, end up not doing it because it's too much of a burden for them. So I know that those are things we're already thinking about, but just would be remiss if I didn't plug it. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Milstein.
Thank you. One of the things I wanted to address in being mindful of equity is that it's about the person, not about the geography. So we want to make sure that if somebody is traveling across town or is somebody attending something that is not specifically in their neighborhood, but they have a financial need, that they are considered independent and individually. And I think that's what this program proposes to do.
I think we may, yes, but we may want both. In other words, we want the individual to be covered if they're crossing over, but we also know that if there isn't a focus on the geography, that some of the people who are in need are going to be missed, especially if it's hard to access the program. So that's what we're, it's a good discussion. It's important.
Yeah, I will just say that as we, as a sort of preview to the scholarship discussion, as we are working on projections for the level of use that we would see this sort of program having, we did use priority neighborhoods as a part of a discussion, included 100% of anticipated participation from priority neighborhoods or low-income neighborhoods as part of this program. So we use several data points to come forward with these recommendations that you'll hear about later this week and next Tuesday.
And I just want to briefly follow up on that, listening to the mayor and Ms. Milstein. I do want to caution, I hear you, Mayor, But we should not be discriminating against kids who want to use North Natomas and come from lower income backgrounds, considering I have 8 very large low-income properties in my district, and those kids deserve to go to North Natomas and not have to pay the full price. While I understand supporting our historically underinvested communities, it really is about the kids and the people that are using those programs, and they should have just as much opportunity to use North Natomas and new facilities at the same discount anywhere else if they choose to go there.
We absolutely agree with that statement. In fact, the current scholarship program that we offer qualifies the individual based on financial need. And an example of one of our scholarship programs is our Swim Safe partnership program that we have with the Sacramento Library, where if youth read 5 books per summer, they get every 5 books they read, they get a free swim pass, and that they can use that at any facility, even North Natomas, and our scholarship program covers that cost. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a motion? Yes. We do have a motion and a second. That's good. But, I do want to have just a briefest of staff response on this whole home business issue, because it's come up now several times, and I'd like to hear, just remind us and the public what the proposal is. There's maybe pre-existing policy, as has been alluded to, and then what this proposal is.
Sure. Mayor and Council, I can talk about the budget piece of it, and Tom Pace, our Community Development Director, can talk about the policy piece. So the current home occupation permit fee is $154. This proposal would raise it to $234. Again, that allows you to have up to 2 businesses in your home.
A year.
Per year, correct. The exception current permit fee is $3,780. The proposal is to raise it to $5,265. The difference is the significant amount of staff time and public hearing required for an exception. And these increases are really just due to increased costs over the past few years to keep it kind of budget neutral. These are not budget balancing strategies.
What's the fiscal impact, though? Well, it's not budget balance. It doesn't go.
Well, it keeps us kind of neutral, right?
But without doing it.
Without doing it, it would increase our deficit.
By how much?
Tom, do you want to talk to the size of it? It
Good
was about 100,000, right?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor. Tom Pace, Community Development Director. To answer your question, it's about $100,000 a year that we are losing right now because our costs have increased and our fees have not been adjusted. So we're recommending to increase the fee to cover our costs. And so the delta would be about $100,000 if we did not increase that fee.
And the current ordinance says that you don't need an exception if you're operating only 2 home businesses? It's only if you go above 2?
There are a variety of criteria that govern home occupations. The limit on 2 businesses is one of those. There are specific types of businesses that are prohibited and certain types of businesses that are limited with certain types of restrictions. So a person who didn't meet all the criteria for having a home occupation in their home would need to apply for an exception if they wanted to do so.
Okay. I mean, I think this is one that I'm willing to look at over the next couple weeks as we approach, the budget. I don't want to necessarily affect the resolution here today, but it's something you've raised it. Thank you. You've come constructively, and I think I understand a little bit better. Let us look at it. All right? All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. The motion passes. Very good. Thank you. Let's go next to item number 8, which is the 24 to 29 Capital Improvement Program.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. My name is Nora Howard. I'm a Senior Budget Analyst with the Finance Department. And the item before you is the 2024 through 2029 Proposed Capital Improvement Program, also known as the CIP. The Capital Improvement Program is a 5-year financing plan for city infrastructure and facility needs. And the CIP, can you hear me better? Okay. The Capital Improvement Program is a 5-year financing plan for city infrastructure and facility needs, and the CIP reflects council-adopted policies and plans and incorporates priorities identified in various master plans and deferred maintenance assessments. The 5-year proposed CIP totals $482.5 million, which funds 126 projects over the 5-year plan to maintain and upgrade city facilities and capital equipment. $71 million is funded by the General and Measure U funds over the 5-year plan, and $14.5 million is funded by the General and Measure U funds for the fiscal year 24-25. A new section identifying unfunded capital needs was added to the CIP this year. The intent is to provide a comprehensive list of the city's unfunded capital needs and develop a funding plan when additional funding is available. This table identifies the 2024 through 2029 capital funding summary. The 5-year CIP identifies approximately $1.9 billion in capital and deferred maintenance needs and approximately $500 million in identified funding, leaving a funding gap of $1.4 billion over the 5-year plan. This chart identifies funded projects in the 5-year CIP by fund, totaling $482.5 million, which supports 126 existing projects or programs. This chart identifies funded projects for the fiscal year 24-25 CIP by fund, totaling $114.9 million, which supports 117 existing projects or programs. Funded projects and programs in the fiscal year 24-25 CIP include the Transportation Corridor Program, which will improve pavement conditions and mobility options citywide. The Water Plus Program, which will design plans and specifications for the development of the water supply expansion needed due to growth. The City Facility Reinvestment Program, which will fund improvements such as elevator upgrades, roof repairs, and other deferred maintenance needs at various city buildings. The Advanced Life Support Equipment Program, which provides funding for ambulances and equipment such as gurneys. The Performing Arts Center Improvement Program, which funds improvements and repairs for the Safe Credit Union Performing Arts Center to maintain a competitive and attractive venue. And the District 4 Park and Restroom Improvement Project, which will construct a new restroom building for Bertha Henschel Park and restoration of the existing basketball court. A full list of projects can be found in the proposed CIP document, which is available on the city's website. This chart identifies unfunded capital needs in the 5-year CIP by program area, totaling approximately $1.4 billion that would address 124 projects. The city is not alone, as most metropolitan areas nationwide are also facing significant unfunded deferred maintenance and capital needs. The city can address the unfunded capital needs and strive to reduce the deferred maintenance backlog by the following strategies. We can utilize the CIP as a tool to prioritize capital investments. We can develop a funding plan for capital projects and deferred maintenance. We can adopt a financial policies that facilitate infrastructure investments, and we could also pursue additional revenue opportunities. Next steps for the proposed CIP include a review by the Planning and Design Commission on May 23rd for consistency with the city's 2040 general plan. The commission's determination will be shared with the Budget and Audit Committee on May 28th. After that, the CIP will be reviewed by the full City Council on June 11th for adoption. Lastly, I would like to thank department staff citywide for their support in helping the Finance Department put together this proposed CIP. This concludes my presentation, and department staff and I are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have public testimony?
I have one speaker on item 8, Mackworthy.
People, this is the reason I ask questions about the consent calendar. See, this type of money, and then you have a clause that you can't be competitive bidding no more. This money goes to friends that's in the city and redevelopments that's outside of the city. Now, when the city make bonds that out of the country buy those bonds, they put a lien hop at the value of the city's property. Tell the people the truth here, what's going on. You can't go to college and learn what I learned. It's not taught. I got a B in business law over at American Virginia College. A B in owns law at City College lab. So, I can go in and ask these questions. People can't. Accounting, I didn't go to school enough to get it, but I got it from the people actually in California cities. Who is Mac Worthy? They'll tell you. But when you see this type of figure go up and the city sit there and say, well, we in a problem, who are using that money when that money go into the bank before the city spend it? That's what the general public should know. That's the reason you see no money, no report on the treasury, monthly investment. What did you invest and what was the public money? That's the reason Bank of America was sued for using the property tax for small contracts and wasn't sharing that money with the people who were paying property tax. These people that they spend this money on do not pay property tax. Understand, from the federal government to the city is non-profit garbage.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor. I have no more speakers.
Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. I just have one question here, if not maybe more direction, and then glad to move the capital improvement project here. But if I could get Jackie or anyone from Parks up here on the CIP for our Granite Regional Park. Have some questions here. It's been a few years now that we've tried to address the issue of lighting at the dog park, and we've held off for a while because we wanted to determine the water levels that were happening in that area. We've been doing a number of research on it, but it seems to me that we need to figure out a decision about how to move that forward and in what capacity we can. So I noticed in the ongoing project section, it's still it's budgeted, it's unobligated, but there isn't any schedule for any year. So this is probably more direction, Mr. Mayor and Assistant City Manager Milstein, that we need to get that project moving forward. I think it's been 6 years going on this project. The other concern that I have is there's nowhere south of the 50 for anyone who lives in an apartment or even homeowners to have their dogs be off leash to get the exercise that they need. And in the south area, there are many areas where there isn't dog parks available, anywhere south of the 50. So at least in the southeast area, per se. And so my concern is if we don't have that, you're going to have people just having off-leash dogs in parks where you've got kids out recreating at the same time, and that's where you get conflicts. And I want to thank our park rangers for being out there and managing some of these issues, but we've had a number of those issues where you have dogs off-leash interacting in areas where we have little leagues or soccer games going on, and that interaction can be problematic. So it's important that that we address the lighting situation, because we got pretty fair weather all year, and it just once the sun goes down, that has a problem, particularly beginning in the fall to the early spring. So that's one area. The other more direction is on. Thank you again for selecting. In this round, every year we have 3 different regional parks that are selected. I'm glad that we finally made the rotation for Granite Regional Park being part of the priority. I want to make sure for the regional park improvement allocation that we sit down with the Sac United families to make sure that we are making the appropriate investments for the right facilities. And if we're going to do this tranche of funds that we have allocated through the CIP, I want to make sure we're doing it in conjunction with what the families see are their needs. And that being one, I know we have what I would say an abandoned horseshoe pit at Granite Regional Park. I know many of the families have asked that we look at repurposing that so we actually take advantage of that. So I don't want to make any decisions here today and micromanage the CIP, but I think the clear direction on this is that we, as we move through the CIP process here, so that we sit down with the Sac United families to do that. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll move the CIP. I also, and thank you, Jackie, and Jason, I want to thank you again. I want to also recognize Jason because, he didn't get a lot of credit during the pandemic and before that, where he'd spent a lot of his own time to fix Tahoe Talc Little League. I mean, I went by there last weekend, and the just sheer families being how happy they were. And before, the park was in very disrepair. The water lines were busted. The grass was yellow. Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate your commitment to that area. Last comment I would say is, and this is for transportation, thank you. I saw that the CIP for Fruit Ridge Road is in here as well, and the evaluation on the safety issues of a road diet, particularly around Earl Warren Elementary. Many of us knew a colleague of ours that was involved in another vehicle fatality in LA. Wasn't here in Sacramento, but I think more so again, we need to be looking at these CIPs for addressing our roadway safety. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and move the CIP.
It's not an action item, it's just for.
Yeah, thank you.
It's okay, thank
Or
you.
the direction, yeah, there we go.
For direction, exactly. Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll apologize. I don't feel like I had all my ducks in a row, and I have promised city staff that I try and not surprise you. So I am not asking any hard questions, but there's a couple things as I've gone through the CIP full printout for each area, just a couple of questions. But I also I think it's important at this time, people, it sounds so esoteric when we talk about capital improvement plan, and what does that actually mean? It means there's a lot of needs that our city has that are not being taken care of because one, we have 1.4 billion easy in backlog, but only funding 482 million. But also the impact of our budget cuts. With vacant positions being cut, I think our public needs to understand with the existing backlog of deferred maintenance, it's only going to take longer to get to. For example, the impact on our parks. Current staffing only addresses 5 million of the over $118 million in deferred maintenance needs of our parks. Impact to our fire department, it continues to grow. Our streets, more importantly, I know I'm not speaking out of turn when I say our council is very committed to safe streets and how do we increase biking opportunities, but we have just a $298 million backlog in paving our streets. I can tell you, drive on Del Paso. There are certain portions of it as you head over the bridge into Maine that have some serious potholes that need to be filled, and I have no idea when and how those are going to be filled. When you think about our facilities division, we have 30 fewer full-time employees compared to 15 years ago. So 30 fewer people in our facilities department than we had in the city 15 years ago, and we've never restored the staff. We've heard about the impact to our public safety, and then as I've brought up, the challenges and the increased costs with IT because it's important in public works and many of our other facilities to keep them absolutely safe and pay what it requires for firewalls so that people cannot get into our critical infrastructure. But that also begs that we as a council need to have a really hard conversation. We want to see our city grow. We want to see economic development. But when we have this backlog of infrastructure, I think we are missing on the core things that we need to do as a city to spur that economic development, because we do need safe roads and bike lanes and clean parks and to be able to maintain our facilities. I don't necessarily want the answer now, but I do know that in City Code Chapter 2.84.120, it sets forth the Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission, which mandates that not less than 2% of total cost of any eligible construction project shall be expended for artworks, which it's our art and public places requirement. If at some point I can get a report back, what is an eligible project? And two, how much has been collected over the last 5 years? Because I think, we think about art in public places, but I'm not sure that many of us fully understand what money has been collected and how is city staff working together for art in public places and how that should be expended. Lainey?
I can certainly get you that. One of the things to notice generally when we do a big construction project, the 2% goes with that particular project and is spent on art at that facility.
Okay.
So you can see those big projects that we've done recently where we have installed additional art as part of the construction of that project. But that's certainly something that I know our arts team has and can get to you.
Okay, perfect. Just, understanding where the funds are, how they're expended, and if there are any funds out there. All right, on transportation, since I can't call Sherry up here because she decided to retire on us, Kevin may or may not be here, but just a question to follow up on page H24 of our CIP, the North Natomas Freeway Monitoring Program, part of an agreement with the state. Just would love to have an update on that because that was set in place prior to Natomas growing, and what does it mean if we hit certain standards of traffic has increased? It says that certain mitigation should be looked at. Where are we with the status of that mitigation? Then I want to look at Miss Donlin Wyatt, just you can follow up with me on page H32. It talks about our active transportation program. I just want to understand the funding and the project costs and what exactly is being going to be funded in that. In section I, utilities, I-11, for Brett Grant, it's our drainage sump replacement and rehabilitation program. I think you understand that drainage. Yes.
So, Councilmember, I know a number of these your staff have asked. We're including them as SBIs.
Okay.
And when we have the answer, we're working with the departments right now on getting those answers. And when we have them, we'll communicate them with mayor and council and also publish them publicly with our staff report.
Perfect. So I'm just reading them into the record so that my staff is more awesome than I am. I am very thankful that they did send these out, but just when the follow-through comes in. Because on drainage sump and replacements, it's really important. A lot of our canals, unfortunately, in Natomas have camps in them and unhoused camps, which are, there is a significant amount of trash, and then it is going into our canals. And I know our utilities department and water are doing as much as they can to capture all the trash, but it also goes into our water and can potentially affect the water quality that we have and also break some of the systems that we have if pieces get through and into our pipes. So just want to understand what we're doing for upgrading to make sure that we can address that. And then on I-24, it's the landfill site closure program. My question in regards to that is, I understand that we're supposed to have an annual 30-year post-closure plan and annual funds, but curious, it says that about $162,500 is going to be allocated from our general fund every year, and I see where money is coming from solid waste. Is this a potential small savings of our general fund? Do we have to commit this general fund funding to it? Just to understand, because I see that there is money going in, but does this have to be? John, I see you coming. It's okay. BIP, it's okay. So I think those are a majority of just my specific questions that I look forward to follow through on. But I just can't emphasize enough that we as a city have to figure out a way to fund our infrastructure, because that is the basis of who we are as a city. And with $1 billion of unmet need, we got to do better. Thank you.
You. Okay, there's not a motion again required on this item, so thank you for the input and the direction. And now let us move to item 9, which is the budget equity tool. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members and mayor and assistant city manager. My name is Amiz Enzale Barnes, and I serve as the diversity and equity manager for the city. Pronouns are she and they, and I'm really glad and excited to be here to share our work on the pilot of the Budget Equity Resource Guide and Tool. For some of you, this will seem familiar, but I will not try to stick to try to alter the comments a little bit, but wanted to give you a breadth and depth for those council members who had not had an opportunity to see the Racial Equity Committee on the 2nd and the 30th. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Want to extend an appreciation to the staff listed, city and council staff that were part of the consultation and informing this work and the Budget Equity Resource Guide and Tool. Really appreciated to them. It was definitely a team effort, so really want to thank them for their time, their efforts, and also leaning in this emergent practice that we are forging. The goals are to the left, but really want to highlight that in the direction that was given at the Racial Equity Committee since January 30th, the Office of Diversity and Equity immediately began researching and finding a racial equity lens and tool. We consulted with city staff and council on the applicability as well as the clarity of such an equity tool that would be purposeful in balancing the direction of the Racial Equity Committee, but also the impact to staff, the remaining time frame in the budget approval process, and the already identified budget reductions that staff have so diligently put forth. So our collective efforts began. This is not only a test to see if you could read 8 font, but it is to demonstrate the variety of work and the intersecting, dynamic, simultaneous work efforts with the direction that staff engaged with. And that's everything from the finance team going out to community and listening to community and did the survey, which you all heard at Budget and Audit, but it's also the deep consultation and rich discussion with council staff and city staff on developing the tool, as well as just learning and researching and moving a process while you are trying to apply it. So really just wanted to reflect that here. And in this 12 weeks, we did our best to document all these moving parts so that we have a better idea of where and when the various choice points are in the budget approval process that we engage in every year. The second major thing is that we have a better idea of looking back so we can replicate emerging and best practices for future application. All this is with the intent of what do we do in the future, as well as a better understanding of our city processes, how they work, and where we can improve in applying equity lens. So let us take a look at how the pilot began. The pilot Budget Equity Resource Guide and Tool really emerged from this report from the Government Finance Officers Association that offered guidance on how to apply an equity lens in a budget reduction or a budget cut cycle, because that's where we were. And particularly applying the equity lens through 2 perspectives. The first perspective is service impacts, and the second is location impacts. So the pilot was developed and designed with the considerations that are listed here, but 3 I really want to highlight. This tool needed to be applicable to a portion, not all of the 250 budget reductions. So that's really the pilot aspect of this. We wanted to affirm and align with the city manager budget instructions and expense reductions impact analysis, the 1 through 4. We also needed to affirm and take into account the Council 9 priorities that includes homelessness, housing, fiscal sustainability, public safety, DEI, deferred maintenance, infrastructure investment, economic development, and creative economy, youth, and climate. So really briefly, we'll go over the 4 major components of this equity guide and tool. And I really want to highlight here, we mean guide, and we are very intentional about guide and tool, because the guide was really developed to offer tips and help the decision maker, whoever was filling it out, understand the why of these 4 components, how they fit together, and how it would tell a story, and provide tips to fill out the questions. And the tool aspect is the inquiry, are the questions that the decision maker fills out. So that's why it's guide and tool. And we felt that that was really important for capacity building and understanding and moving in a very short timeline. So the 4 sections of the Budget Equity Resource Guide and Tool begins with Section 1, and that is goal setting, budget classification, and project outcomes. So this was important for decision makers to get started by leveraging goals and project outcomes of the service or project being reduced or cut that they had already identified. We tend to always have goals. We tend to know what the outcomes are of all of our projects. And so this is where the beginning is to help define how the potential reduction and cuts could impact different communities. And again, utilizing the budget classification of 1 through 4 and the budget instructions regarding discretionary and fixed, all of that, or mandatory, that was extremely important, and that's where the decision maker would offer clarity here. In the second section is the first perspective, which is service impacts. This perspective allows the decision maker to ask and seek available data. What is the data out there to the potential cuts? So on determining if the reduction of the quality of service, how and what does that look like? Who would that have the most impact on? It's also to spur curiosity and innovativeness around what synergies could be done to minimize the impact once it's identified, or what data is telling us that the cuts could have unusual or high impact on community members that have been historically divested from, that has not been done in the last few years. So it's to create this synergy around maybe there's alternative ways of how we can go about this, so the cut is not as deeply felt by communities, particularly vulnerable. But it's also to allow us to use data in a very powerful way in terms of either getting it or understanding where we need to improve on our data collection. The third section is the second perspective, which is location impacts. And so this allows the decision maker in this section to help understand the geographic character of the budget cuts and the potential impacts on vulnerable and already underserved neighborhoods and communities. So hopefully this resonates with you all being and knowing that you have districts, right? So understanding the services, and in fact, some of that kind of should remind us of even the conversation prior to this agenda item, is understanding that. So that is how we were able to fit in where the budget cycle was for this. The last section is about reevaluating and key impacts. So this is the opportunity for the decision maker to be prompted to document impacts of budget cuts and reductions, to mitigate unintended consequences and intended benefits for future action. Doesn't mean it won't happen this particular budget cycle, but it's a way for us to look back and understand where we can move and do things differently in the next cycle. It also offers the decision maker to explicitly consider impacts to avoiding and contributing to inequities and forge relationships for future collaboration and implementation. So that is a brief overview of the actual tool, the guide and tool. And a lot of all of this information is in the supplemental materials. So you'll see that there, the template that was used. So for today's presentation, really wanted to highlight the 2 completed guide and tool from Office of Innovation and Economic Development, and 1 completed from the Convention and Cultural Services. And wanted to do, and then the last section will be a quick demo and update, and I emphasize quick demo and update, from our colleagues, ITGS colleagues, Michael and Lauren, on the integration of heat maps, as well as what the Sacramento Equity Explorer Design GIS tool. And that was also presented on the 2nd and 30th at the Racial Equity Committee. Today's presentation, again, the supplements are there, will not go in. The only thing I want to highlight here is the note that you would see in the supplements that the fire department completed 3 guide and tools and diligently did that, and we really want to thank them. But we felt for the use of the time, those cuts were no longer, as we were in the process, were no longer being cut. So this was the best use of time, but really want to acknowledge the work of the fire department, and particularly Ann for filling that out and being part of the team. So some things to keep in mind as you hear today's presentation, and part of our approach to doing this pilot was, given how we could apply the guide and tool and the short time frame and where we were in the budget, equals equity was already in the work. So we went and looked at departments, and really with the leadership of ACM Laney, to identify departments who had already have equity informing their work. And so when you look at the Office of Innovation and Economic Development, staff worked with careholders to outline a framework to advance and implement an inclusive economic and community development strategy. That resolution was passed by the City Council in 2018, and it calls on implementing comprehensive and intentional actions to increase and diversify the economic growth in an inclusive and equitable manner that focuses on neighborhoods and their unique needs. The other aspect, is their 2021 Scale Up Sacramento report that was adopted by the City Council as well. And then, of course, their resolution, the Inclusive Economic Development Investment Funding Guidelines, all have equity components that was informing the work already. And with Convention and Cultural Services, they're informing and driving outcomes in that area. The Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission in 2018 had a cultural equity statement, and that was presented to the council. And then in June 2020, the newly formed Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy Commission met in June 2020 and adopted the Race and Cultural Equity Statement to reflect its new jurisdiction of the City of Sacramento. And so it is there that I would like to, that we'll hear and learn from Denise Malvetti, Economic Development Manager, followed by Megan Van Voorhis, Director of Convention and Cultural Services, how this foundational equity work continues to inform and shape their work, specifically in the approach to identifying the reductions and then applying the Budget Equity Resource Guide and tool. And so now I will pass it over to Denise.
Thank you. One of the things that we did is that they were presented with staff's first draft of this tool. And Denise and Megan and Ann looked at the tool, and they told us it was a really iterative process. This works, this doesn't work, this doesn't make sense. Can I do it this way? Can I? And that's the expectation for this as being living, breathing, right? We're going to learn and do better and normalize and teach others to use a tool. But the iterative work that happened and the willingness to be voluntold and step in and help us with this and take this on was pretty extraordinary for these folks. So I just want to say thank you in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon, Mayor and members of the Council. Denise Malvetti, the Deputy Director of the Office of Innovation and Economic Development. And I first want to start with providing some context around our office and our budget. We are housed within the City Manager's office, and we have a general fund Measure U budget of approximately $5.9 million. And about, well, over 85% of that is salary and benefits. So when being tasked with coming up with a reduction plan of 15, 5, 10, and 15%, it is certainly a bit alarming. Just as a refresher from our presentation earlier this year, our office is committed to growing a strong, inclusive, and vibrant economy, and we're organized in the following teams: community investment, economic development, and that team includes small business and innovation and entrepreneurship, workforce development, housing, community engagement, and nighttime economy. Our work is guided by a few of the documents that you just heard Ami speak about a moment ago. Our inclusive economic development funding strategy, which is designed to foster economic and community development and job growth within the city that creates opportunities for all of Sacramento's residents, while at the same time prioritizing strategic investments for people of color, low-income individuals, and underinvested communities. Scale Up Sacramento, our inclusive economic development action plan, highlighted opportunity industries and strategies for Sacramento to inclusively grow these industries. These documents are the foundation of our work and helped guide our reduction plan. We approached the budget reduction by prioritizing and preserving our incredible team that is really developing and implementing a lot of the impactful programs in our office. Our proposed reductions include the elimination of 2 vacant positions and liquidating some program budgets and pausing funding for other programs. We completed the tool for both staffing and program reductions, but I will focus primarily on the staff positions today. So the 2 positions proposed for elimination are a principal planner on our community investment team, which is focused on the rail yards and riverfront, and an administrative technician on the economic development team. This position was focused on our innovation and entrepreneurship programs. The principal planner position was created to develop a vision for the rail yards and waterfront in hopes of accelerating the redevelopment of the areas. The redevelopment of these 2 areas would further enhance the central city as a regional destination, generate jobs, create housing, and therefore generate additional tax revenues for the city. The administrative technician position was focused on developing and implementing innovation and entrepreneurship programs to assist Sacramento's small businesses and innovators. Both positions aligned with our work of growing a more inclusive economy and creating enhanced economic opportunities for Sacramento residents. So service impacts is interesting when you talk about the work in our office. It can't easily be quantified based on, by eliminating positions, we will, process X less permits because that's not the nature of our business, or, response times would change by X amount. So it's hard to put exact numbers to it, but what we can say is that our service delivery will likely be slowed, but not stopped. Because our team is flexible and adjusts based on current need, any changes in staffing, regardless of primary assignment, in this case, rail yards and waterfront and innovation entrepreneurship, can impact a range of programs, including small business, workforce, community investment, community engagement, and housing. So why were these 2 positions selected? One reason they were selected is both positions are vacant and have been for over a year, and so a lot of the work has already been redistributed and the impact absorbed. In the case of the principal planner, we had 2 project managers that worked alongside this individual for a few years, gained experience, and promoted into senior positions, taking on a greater workload. In the case of the administrative technician, that position was previously filled with someone who also promoted in our office to a project manager. So the institutional knowledge is still in the office, but the burden of a lot of the work has already been redistributed. To provide an example of how we adjust to whether it's changes in, scope changes in our work or staffing changes. I think the office's COVID response would be a good example of that. As you know, our office was tasked with deploying about $80 million of ARPA, CARES, and some FEMA funding for a senior feeding program in response to the needs of small businesses and residents. But what that meant by shifting, all of our staff to deploy those programs, based on the current need, some of our programs were delayed. And one example is the Innovation Grant Program that was launched in 2017. We had annual rounds, but it went on hold in 2020, and because of staffing and just our scope change, we didn't relaunch that until last year. So by eliminating positions, we would envision maybe something similar happening where programs may just be delivered at a slower pace, but it doesn't mean our work is going to stop. So location impacts, as I mentioned earlier, one of the positions was very place-based. This position was created to focus specifically on the rail yards and riverfront. And the tool does walk you through a number of potential location impacts, especially highlighting areas where some of our most vulnerable residents live. And in this case, the rail yards and riverfront area does fall into the designations that you'll see on the slide above. The administrative technician position is a citywide position, worked on programs that are citywide, but it's important to note that the programs that they administered do have equity and inclusion embedded in those programs. So although they weren't, place-based like the principal planner position, there certainly are implications of the elimination of that position. Okay, so the purpose of this section was to go back, look at the purpose of the program, and did the tool help us better understand potential benefits and impacts? And I would say, indeed, it did. Although we have various guiding documents, the Budget Equity Resource Guiding Tool allowed us to look at the impacts of these reductions with very specific equity opportunity areas, which Amy had mentioned earlier in our presentation. Those areas were community access, food access, public health, mobility, human and social services, cultural impacts, housing, and economic considerations. In our office, the most obvious one were the economic impacts with potential impacts to employment, economic recovery, but in going through the tool and looking at this very detailed checklist, because of the variety of the work we do, eliminating positions in the office could certainly impact areas like food access. As you all know, Ginger and Mikkel in our office were instrumental in the ARPA Food Justice Program and are working on, our office actually works on a couple of farmers markets throughout the city. Community access, again, that was one of the opportunity areas. And if you think of the work that Lynette and her team do with not only the community ambassadors, but just all of the programs linking the community to the resources in the city and resources throughout the region. And housing with the work that Yayin and Axel do in our office. So again, the most obvious one on the checklist is economic considerations, but when you really go through and think through the various potential impacts, they go beyond economics. Okay, so lessons learned. It certainly is helpful to have a few of our adopted guiding documents, but this tool did help us look deeper into these reductions. And so certainly one lesson learned is it would have been helpful to have it earlier, but as Ami and then Lainey spoke about, just the timing of how this came along. But I think the lesson learned that I just wanted to spend the most time on is related to data. And I think that when we were tasked with coming up with reduction plans, we have some programs that have very clear data and very clear metrics. And so one example is the Financial Empowerment Center that we spoke a bit about in our January presentation. And Amy Williamson in our office manages that. And you can go on our website, and at any time, you can get a snapshot of how many individuals that program has assisted. And interestingly enough, I had looked it up before Racial Equity Committee 2 weeks ago, and then when I pulled it up to prepare for this, we passed a threshold and assisted about another 200 residents, or 20 plus residents, so we're over 1,300. But if you look at the dashboard, the average income of people that this program has assisted is about $39,000. And so, very low income in Sacramento County is $37,000. So this is a program clearly assisting some of our most vulnerable. We know that it has assisted 64% women, 75% people of color, so we know who we're assisting and we know how we're assisting. We have clear measurements on outcome. That the average savings of people who have participated in the program, it's over $2,200, reduced debt by an average of $2,300, and the program has assisted with reducing debt by over $1 million. So clearly, we had data which really helped us understand this was a program that could not be reduced because of the impacts. It should also be noted that this is a program that Amy and Lynette are continuously seeking outside funding to support. And I think that that's an important note of this program, as well as a lot of our other inclusive economic development work, seeking grant funding to support a lot of the work. Another program in our office that had clear metrics is the economic gardening program. We know the demographics of each cohort, and we have clear measurements on their revenue increases, their staffing increases, so we can track the impact. So that's one side of data, but I do want to highlight some of the challenges which are up here related to capacity, consistency, and timing. So again, this data, when going through the tool, it was very helpful to have programs that had clear data sets, but that becomes an internal and external capacity challenge. Some of the organizations that we've had the good fortune of working with through CARES and ARPA are very small organizations embedded in the community. And so some of the reporting requirements, although important for accountability, do become almost burdensome on the organizations. Time spent on meeting the federal reporting requirements is time not spent, kind of on their mission-driven work. So that's the other side. And then also the internal capacity side for city staff of, being able to assist our partners through it, collect the data, and analyze the data. So although it's, very important and certainly helps through a process like this tool, there are some considerations that go along with it as well. And consistency, just we collect data even internally in our office based on funders. Sometimes there's different requirements, so it's just hard to compare apples to apples. So with that, I just want to thank the Innovation and Economic Development team for all of their work on inclusive economic development and specifically racial equity. It is a very committed team. And I also really want to thank Ami, Robert, Larissa, and Lainey who helped guide us through this process. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan, the Director of Convention and Cultural Services, and then we'll all be available for any questions after. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Megan Van Boris, Director of Convention and Cultural Services. Good to see you all this afternoon. I'm going to move quickly as well. Some of this you have seen when ACM JASO discussed our budget for Convention and Cultural Services, but just real quickly, the budget for CCS was about $28 million in FY 23-24, and the vast majority of that $28 million is TOT. So we're dealing with about 23.4%, 23.5% of our budget that is General Fund, Measure U, Innovation, and Growth Fund. So it's around $6 million if you look at the portion of that. We looked at overall, once we looked at that portion and identified the 15% that we were asked to do, really what was at play? About 83% of that general fund and Measure U fund is, as with Office of Innovation and Economic Development, salary, staff, services, and supplies. So the options that we had within that context also very small. The remaining about 1.14 million supports multi-year operating projects, which includes the Cultural Arts Awards program and the Creative Edge program. And I'll just say, we were considering equity at the very forefront of facing this particular budget scenario. Because our MIOPs specifically support our reach throughout Sacramento and includes direct financial support of communities of color, we immediately ruled out cuts to those areas. There's a lot of organizations throughout the city that receive support for that, and we have really very good data on the programming that they're providing and where that providing that programming throughout the city. So since that was off the table, one of the things that we did was we proposed that eligible expenses that we had in CCS be transitioned to transient occupancy tax to maintain service delivery to the public, then looked at discretionary funding items such as arts stabilization, contracts with our partners where they may have other capacity to secure revenues to support their work. So just a brief, this particular Berg tool was done on the two, reduction in funding for Old Sacramento Visitor Center and Sacramento History Alliance operations and services, as well as the SMUD Museum of Science and Curiosity. The total reduction was about $174,000 between both museums. The budget classification, as you'll see it, is listed as discretionary and having level of impact of 2. The goals of this funding are to deliver education and cultural experiences to the public, primarily help people understand history and science through fun and engaging exhibitions and programming, and also secondarily to address issues of social isolation, educational achievement, and civic engagement, all the things that we know are really valuable about arts and culture in this city. Museums are key drivers of community health and well-being, And the goal also expand participant understanding of arts, culture, history, science, and the world around them, contribute to economic vibrancy, and improve educational experiences for young people, leading to student growth and achievement. So service impacts, closure of the old Sacramento Visitor Center would affect about 20 to 30,000 annually. When we put this forward, we thought, well, maybe we have to consolidate some of the functions to the museum site and have museum staff absorb responsibilities, kind of a better understanding of that now. Closing for 1 day a week may be a necessity, which will result in reduced access to exhibits and programs by the community. And I realized when I was rereading the Berg tool today in preparation for this that that was what Mosaic had said as a part of them. So it sort of looks like it's a history, but it was actually Mosaic. Staffing cuts inevitable at both institutions, which could affect the number of school groups that can be served by remaining staff, as well as the student experience. And I'll just use this as a moment to call this out, because I also called it out in the Racial Equity Committee meeting, that sometimes we take for granted, or certain folks will take for granted the fact that parents can take off a day and take their youth on a field trip, and not everybody has the ability to do that. So the experience and the staffing that's provided actually does directly affect the experience of the youth that are there. So that's an equity issue. In general, cuts to operating funding create pressure on free programming offered to community members, and such programming is likely to be reduced, and in general, that's likely to have a greater effect on Sacramento's most vulnerable populations. Locationally, both museums serve visitors from throughout the region and far beyond. Both have educational partnerships with schools for field trips and other programs. I would just call out Mosaic has a very strong relationship with the Twin Rivers Unified School District, who's a major partner ensuring every third grader gets access to a field trip to Mosaic. That's so significant. Cuts to free programming is most likely to affect most vulnerable populations, and well, I said all of that. So just a couple of things here on this very, very wordy slide. We do think arts and cultural infrastructure and programming holds great promise for advancing better outcomes for our community economically, educationally, and socially. Both of these museums impact things a little bit differently, but really around helping to achieve social and economic justice. One of those things is really redefining historical narratives. We all recognize that there's a dominant narrative that has just been shaped about this country and how it's developed, and we're making progress in terms of our work, both with the Center for Sacramento History and through our partners, to help people have a broader understanding about the history that has shaped the environment that we're living in. And STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, also helps to advance economic justice for people. I thought it was important also in this conversation to just acknowledge the historic systems of power and privilege that have shaped the arts and cultural infrastructure as we know it, both here in Sacramento and across the country. It's not unusual to see arts and cultural infrastructure sort of in like a city core or whatnot. I mean, the idea is, right, that everybody has access to it, but I think what we know is that, busing makes it extremely difficult, or transportation makes it extremely difficult for folks to access those resources. And et cetera. So many of the organizations that are funded off of TOT in the city core, those organizations that are considered discretionary are not. So the strength and connections of a nonprofit board can significantly influence where arts and cultural infrastructures investments are made, and the level of those investments can have long-standing implications. So we have many, examples where we made an investment, $30 million investment. It's going to be in effect for over 30 years, so that limits our ability to make investments in other places. Organizations that are led by, accountable to, and predominantly serving communities of color often face barriers in philanthropy, lack access to the connections to high net worth individuals, and lack knowledge of funding tools, policies, and processes that may come easier to larger institutions. So CCS shaped our budget recommendations to limit the impact on those that have not traditionally benefited from those systems of power and privilege. We also know that all communities should benefit from the public infrastructure investments we've made. So whether it's our own facilities, the city facilities, like the Safe Credit Union Convention and Performing Arts Complex, the Memorial Auditorium, et cetera, we're looking at new ways to advance the cause and really think about how do we make sure that we have stronger representation on our stages and throughout our facilities, and there's more to come on that work, and I look forward to talking with council about that. But we also have partnerships with these organizations that are funded, and so we think it's important for us to have conversations with them about how we can be working to advance this work. A couple of things, just in terms of applying the tool. CCS, just a reminder, we considered racial equity impacts ahead of submitting budget reduction plans, but no, we know that there are still impacts associated with what we had to put forward. I will say personally that it gave me a more detailed understanding of the racial equity impacts of some of the proposed cuts. So for example, when I went to the two organizations in this case, what's the service impact? And one of them said, hey, we have this SNAP EBT program, or this program that allows people, Museums for All, to show a SNAP EBT card and get in a family of 4 for free, and that served 4,000 families. Obviously, I learned that after these cuts had been proposed. Having better information from our partners on their services to marginalized communities would be helpful. So this is one where I think I would just support Denise's comment. There's a balance between the capacity that the organizations that we have for asking for data, as well as our own capacity and ability to analyze it. All of that is a real challenge, but it's really important for us to really effectively engage who's going to be impacted by this. And then I would just also say departments and their staff are all at different places along the racial equity journey, and it's hard to get one tool to meet people where they are. So for example, I might be, I'm at this stage along my racial equity journey. And so people that might be at the beginning stage of that journey may look different than what someone is prepared to do or look at a later stage of their journey. So a question that I would propose is how can we use existing tools like staff reports and BCPs to help ignite some conversation around racial equity impacts while still keeping a more efficient process and meeting people where they are. There have been, and again, I mentioned this during the Racial Equity Committee, but I'll mention it again here too, to the fabulous finance and budget team who are sitting right there. I really feel like having this been the first time that I've ever had to go through something like this, I feel like I've been really, really ushered through in a very good way through this particular budget process, and I'm just grateful to them for that, so thank you. But I would just say some of those tools that have been developed may be applicable in this racial equity context. So defining levels of impact from a racial equity perspective, think 1 through 4 as was done for budget reduction classifications, or perhaps having the methodology for order of operations consider racial equity at the start. So those were a couple of things just as I was sort of reflecting back on that. And that's it from the Convention and Cultural Services side. So I'm going to hand it back to me and just say thank you. I'll be available for questions after.
Thank you. All right. So just to summarize, and then also we're going to hear from our fabulous GIS team as well on direction from the mayor that we received. I think it was at the April 2nd Racial Equity Committee meeting about the SEED tool and heat map. So this is going to be part of the presentation, but I just wanted to highlight thus far in the emergent practice piece, which is essentially the build the ship as we sail it. I want to highlight 3 particular things, but there's more here on the slide. Having a citywide commitment and leadership mandate really helps to create shared understanding and an approach to real success. So that's something that was a constant thread through the discussions. Understand how applying a racial equity lens to future parts of the budget and implementing mitigating strategies to shift and change. And then affirming the consistency and collection and analysis across city and with partners is something I think we really should look at and elevate that conversation, because it really does inform our decision-making from the city staff and then ultimately to you all as city council. For the future practice, start early with phased rollouts. Yeah, we want to do that. We want to do it not in a 12-week crunchy kind of span. We want to do it more intentional, methodical, and more inclusive with our teams, especially if we want to build capacity. And then incorporating, and the second point I would mention for the future is building off a little bit of what Megan offered, which was incorporating through a phased approach a racial equity lens into existing forms and processes and workflow. So staff reports or BCPs or however that looks like. What can we do to ease that in, but also build the capacity of our staff in having these conversations? Because I think what you heard from both Denise and Megan is that while they started and had equity inform their work, the tool helped to go deeper and to understand from a holistic lens how the impacts would be felt, and that definitely informs and shapes good data-driven decision-making. So let's go ahead and turn to the C demonstration.
The what demonstration?
The Sacramento Equity Explorer Design GIS tool.
Oh, the
The one
GIS
with the
tool.
heat maps.
Yeah, the heat map. Good.
Yeah, we're the heat map folks. Hello, everybody. My name is Lauren Dreyfus. I'm a GIS specialist here at the city. And we are going to go ahead and show you the Sacramento Equity Explorer and Design tool. Some of you are already very familiar with this tool, so we're going to try to keep it not boring for you folks, but we do want to share it with everybody who hasn't seen it yet. So just to orient everybody, the Sacramento Equity Explorer and Design tool was developed in order to get an idea of equity across the city. The centerpiece of this tool is the Sacramento Equity Index, which you see here on the map. If you're unfamiliar with what an index is, in our case, it's a group of areas that are scored based on the aggregation of certain indicators, based on how well those areas do according to those indicators. Once we have that score, we can start to map our equity. For us, it's an equity index, so we're looking at equity indicators. I hope that makes sense. Our equity indicators across the city are things like percent of unemployment, percent of households for whom the greater gross rent burden is greater than 30% of their income, population of non-white percentage, things like that. We do have a full list of all the indicators on the tool, so if you'd like to take a look through all of those, you're more than welcome to. That list is not comprehensive yet. We welcome feedback on how to integrate more of indicators that might be Sacramento-specific into the tool. But the way we get that score, we aggregate all these indicators together, and the way we get that score is something called a similarity search. For each indicator, we look at the highest value, and we score each area based on how closely it resembles that highest value. And so what we get out of that is a ranking, and from that ranking, we're able to calculate a percentile. And that's actually what you see here on the map, here in the map legend. And you can think of these percentiles as a grade. The higher you are, if you're in the 90th percentile, you're probably doing pretty well. If you're in the 10th percentile, perhaps not as well. As you can see, we are using census tracts, or maybe you can't see that, but that's what we're using. We're using census tracts because most of our indicator data comes from the American Community Survey via the Census Bureau. So we needed to get data into smaller bits than city districts, or council districts, and so census tracts was the geographic region where most of that data was available. So that's just to orient you into SEED. Mike's going to go ahead and show you what other functionality we have built into the tool.
Thank you, Lauren. My name is Michael Dobbins. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
I'm sorry, if it's a little hard to hear.
Oh, louder, Mike.
Oh, yes.
That's good. That's better. Thank you.
My name is Michael Dobbins. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll give you an overview of the tool. So, as Lauren described, the equity index is based on census tracts. So the map in the center of the screen is showing the census tracts within the city of Sacramento. You'll see that there's some area that runs outside of the city boundary. That's because city census tracts are not perfectly aligned with city boundaries. So you'll see areas where, like, for example, here's Council District 1, and some of these census tracts extend out into the county areas. Nonetheless, this is the map showing the equity index. If you were to click on one of these polygons, you would be able to see the breakdown of the various indicators and the rank percentile that Lauren described, showing that the areas with a dark blue are the overall lower scores, so the less equitable overall census tracts in the city. Of course, there's a lot going on in this tool, so I would encourage folks to check it out. This is a publicly available tool, so it's not just for city staff. This is available to the public. And you can find lots of information on how to use the tool on our user guide, which is available in the upper right-hand corner. And you can also find out lots of information about the component layers of this tool. So if you go to the map layer details page, you'll see brief descriptions of the various indicators, as well as links to the source. And for more information, you can go to the Census Bureau itself website and find out more information there. So back to the seed map. So in addition to the map in the center, you'll see that there are some filters on the side where you can really hone in on the data. So for example, we could use a filter on the overall index and say set it at 20, and this will simply filter out all of the census tracts that are not in that 20 percentile. So that is a very simple way to do some filtering. However, you could also do some more complex analysis. So if you were interested in, say we had a hypothetical scenario where a city program was looking to do outreach to folks that are at risk of being homeless, maybe housing insecure, and we wanted to do this outreach in areas where there's a greater percentage of families of color and of folks that are not having health insurance. So at first glance, that seems like a lot of factors to whittle down. But we can do that with these tools. So we could say we want to look at the pollution burden score of 30. Some of this data is a little, you have to get into the weeds on the data a bit to get into it. But if you look at the bottom of each of these filters, they give you a overall, the valid values range for each of those. So we'll put in 30 here. We'll say no health insurance. We'll put right in the middle here at 8. And going up to non-white population, so let's put that at 60. So a majority non-white census tracts. And finally, we will go to housing insecurity. So we'll go to where percentage of renter households for whom gross rent is 30% or more of household income, and we'll put that at 50%. And we'll turn that one on as well. And now you can see that the map is showing only these census tracts that meet all of these criteria. So you could, from there, you could export out the census tracts as a CSV. You could have all of this information, in Excel.
Can I interrupt just for a second?
Yes.
I'm sorry. No, this is great and foundational to everything I know we talked about at the committee, but my question was a little bit different, and maybe you're getting to it. I don't know.
They're getting to it.
Okay, it's the actual, it's the heat map. It is the city's budget overlaid this demographic, so we can see where we're spending our money. That's the racial equity tool. I just want to make sure we're getting to that, and we're getting a little short on time.
Absolutely,
so,
understand.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Understand. So we'll put the equity index back. So now you're seeing the full index, and I'll turn it over to Lauren, who will describe the additional layers that we've added at your request.
Right. Most of those layers that we added are Sacramento specific, and most of them revolve around calls for service. Many of them are heat mappable. A couple of them are not, and don't worry if you don't know what a heat map is, I will explain in just a moment. But we'll start with the data that we added that was not heat mappable. These are data that are aggregated into specific geographic regions, and the first part of that is police crimes. Also, all of these data go back in many cases to at least the last 3 fiscal years. So if we turn on Police Part 1 crimes, you can see these are aggregated by police districts, which are slightly different than city council districts. If we click on one of the regions, we can get a breakdown of Part 1 crimes for that police district. We have the same sort of data for YPSI summer program participation, only this time it's by zip code. They were able to get us that data by zip code. So we can turn on this layer, click on one of the zip codes, and then see the total number of participants from that zip code. So these two we're not able to heat map data this way. Heat maps, for those of you who are unfamiliar, require points. And heat maps don't just look at where there are many points, they look at where points are clustered together, where many points are close together.
Can you do YPSI quick? I think that's.
Oh, yeah, go
please.
for it. This is one of the data sets that we don't have for fiscal year all the way back. This is just for the 2023 summer programs. Was there a specific zip code you wanted?
I guess I just want to know how many kids are participating in city programs from what neighborhoods? That's.
Yeah.
What?
95820.
95820.
We don't have a search function, unfortunately. Oh, wow, you just know exactly where it is. Never mind. There you go. Yeah.
95826.
Yeah. So some of this data, of course, is we can't look at individuals. That's personally identifiable information. We can't put that in a publicly accessible app. But it is aggregated into zip codes, and hopefully the ask was made in a very short amount of time. So this was what YPSI was able to get us, and we're so happy that they were able to. We've also added the community centers as a layer, just so you can see where they are on the map. We have a hope for the future to sort of be able to correlate these data sets better to see sort of like where people are going and get an idea of that travel that you guys were talking about, but that's in the future and a dream at this point. But the calls for service that are heat mappable are, in this case, fire calls, and areas of those high clusters are shown in yellow and go down to blue. So we have those for fire. We have those for code enforcement violations. And then we do have them also for 311 calls, but everybody just put on your sunglasses. This is going to be, it's very bright. Yeah, it's a lot of we get a lot of 311 calls. We've also added, this big yellow blob of data is not particularly useful to anybody. We have added filters for all three of those heat mappable layers. So if you'd like to start filtering through those, in the interest of time, we won't necessarily get through it all, but please feel free to explore this data on your own. Also, I did just want to say that we do also have a specific app for 311 data, if you're interested, that allows you to actually see those points. And it allows you to have a lot more filtering capability than what we have in the SEED app. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel on the SEED app. So we do have this publicly available app as well. This is accessible also via our open data portal, which if you're interested in what kinds of data sets that we already have available here at the city, please check out our open data site. We have a lot of these data sets that are very interesting are already available. And I think that's all we have for you today, unless there are questions. I know we're out of time, so.
Okay. I think we'll open it up to the council in a moment, and so if you guys can stay around, I think this is really important, maybe revolutionary, I don't know, in terms of how we really use a racial equity tool. So let's get to the members and for the entire presentation, and I'm sure be on call, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, we don't have public testimony, so let me turn it over to Councilmember Vang, and then Vice Mayor, and I've got a comment or two. Go.
Thanks, Mayor. I know we're past 4, so I'll try to keep it short. I have just some comments similar to the Racial Equity Committee, but really want to kind of reiterate and reaffirm some of my comments made, given that this presentation was given to the full council. And so really want to thank Ami and her incredible team, Denise and Megan and Lauren, and just our IT team for the presentation. I think this work is more important than ever, not just during a structural deficit, but as we move forward, right? And we're also projecting that we're going to be in the red in a couple years. And so how do we apply this tool? I think it's great that we now have the C tool at the tip of our fingers, but it's how we're going to use it as a mayor and council to really inform our decision. And so that falls not only on city staff, but also our office as well, so that we can also learn how to use it as we're making decisions when items are coming to us. I just really want to thank Denise and thank Megan and Ann from Fire for walking through the budget equity tool again. It's so critical in the work that we're doing here at the city as we're embarking this racial equity resolution and doing this work. I really appreciate all three offices and departments really stepping up to do this. And as you heard from Denise and Megan, right, the office, I would say your budget is very small compared to other departments, but you're doing such important work to uplift our families, everything from the financial empowerment program to Lynette's team on doing the outreach to food access to ensuring that our youth and our babies who don't get the resources have access to arts. So important in terms of thinking about making sure that our people can reach their full potential. I just want to, name something, and I know that the challenge we have is obviously a deficit, right? And I just want to say that I am cognizant that we all operate within a system that is set up to have the outcomes that we have and the disparities that we have, right? And I also am cognizant that we have mandatory funding, et cetera, like compliance and contracts that we are obligated to do versus discretionary. And this is the challenge that we have as a governing body for any entity. And oftentimes arts, financial empowerment, food access, they fall within discretionary funding, right? When I believe they should be mandatory. That's just me just putting that on record, right? That this is the system that we operate in. And it is the balance that as mayor and council, we have to strike. But I just want to name that because if we don't recognize how the system is set up, then the policy decision we make, we're literally replicating the same system that we're trying to fight against. So I just wanted to say that. And then, I also want to reiterate that this is the reason why the Office of Diversity and Equity is so important and critical to the city. We've heard that we only did a pilot program for 3 offices and departments. And a big part of that is because I will give a shout out to these 3 departments because they're already kind of doing the work. So you're ready to go and kind of dive in. But it's so important that we build the capacity in order to do this, right? And the reason why it's a pilot because it was really short time frame. We're working within our budget. But something that I do want to share is that, ultimately, when we get there, when we phase in and we do the training, I would love to see all departments going through this, right? Not sure what that may look like, but I'm going to lean on staff and our expertise to really think through what that looks like. I know that will take resources, so I'm not, I just want to name that, but that's important. Like if this is a priority of us, of our city, then we also have to make sure that we make it a priority in our budget as well. I just want to share to my colleagues as co-chair of the Racial Equity Committee that at the last Racial Equity Committee, we did make a direction that in our next meeting, which is not until August, actually, is that me and our staff will come back and bring back kind of like a plan of how this would look like to implement if we were to phase in, so that we're prepared to really implement this tool for future years. And so just wanted to share that with my colleagues. And then something I might get dinged for this because I represent District 8, but when I was looking at that map, I think how we govern, obviously we were all elected to represent our districts, and we're going to fight hard for our district. But when we take a look at this map, we know where the disparities are at. And I think it's important for us to really face that head on. And I may have some neighborhoods that are in the yellow, right? And I'm willing to make sure that we direct those resources to areas like District 2 or areas in District 5 and 6 that I see. And that's how we govern as a mayor and council, is when we're not selfish just fighting for our district, but realizing the need citywide. And so that's the power of this tool, because it actually shows us as electeds, like I know we're all fighting for our district, but when we look at this tool, it tells us how we should govern, how we should uplift those families and those communities that are left behind. And so that's why I'm so proud of the work of city staff leading this, and just want to say thank you. Because yes, we're policymakers, but we got to have the tools in front of us to make the right decision and to have that hard conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Vang. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to say I second that. Everything that Councilmember Vang said, I totally agree with, and really just want to appreciate Ami and the entire team for putting this together. I think it helps us. We talk about all the time about making data-based or data-driven policy decisions, but whether or not we actually do that is based on the tools that we have. And so this is an incredible one. And I actually just wanted to say, hopefully you two are just doing an amazing, you were so into it. I'm hoping that maybe I can bring you out to my district and we can do like a workshop for the community, because I think that this would be an incredible tool also for our residents and constituents to be able to advocate effectively for the things that are important to them, right? A lot of this information people may not know. They might have a sense. I had a sense, right? And I think looking at this map really confirmed it for me. A lot of the things just representing the area, understanding some of the issues and talking to folks, but being able to see the data really shows you, oh yes, those are the neighborhoods that we really need to work on and the areas that we need to invest in. So I'll be following up with you and just want to thank you all, everyone, for the great work. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you. Third to all of that. Also want to highlight what I think Megan said, which was really helpful about just the limitations of the data we collect. And I just want to really flag that, you know, like the whole central city, we have one community center and one pool, and it's at Southside Park. The community center was closed for years and the pool's closed right now, right, for repairs. So when you see data that looks at youth services, kids in my district are going to other districts. They're going to ESAC, they're going to Lamb Park to get services. So how do we, at each department, collect data that's going to allow us to make this tool better moving forward, because every department in the city has some reach, some impact on communities that needs to be understood, so that if, hopefully not forever, the city ends up in a situation like this, but even if it's something as simple as deciding where a new discretionary grant goes, or hey, we have some CIP money and we're not sure which park to prioritize next, like this should be the metric we're using to prioritize those things, and it will only be effective if every department is figuring out where are those opportunities to collect more nuanced data, so that we can really use that to inform our decisions and make these mapping tools and make other tools much more effective. So yes, and I'd love to get an email with the link to that, those maps. Thank you.
A couple of things on my end, if I may. First of all, I think this is really important and hopeful work, and I think you've all done a great job beginning to build a very important foundation. I've got three things, though, that I want to just say in an effort maybe to plant some seeds even for when I'm gone, so that this might elevate even more. Number one, I would suggest that when it comes to this very hopeful heat map, where we just got a little bit of a taste of it, and I asked about Yipsy because, you know, where kids are served or how kids are served is really, really important. I would suggest that, and it'll be up to the next mayor and the council, but that you really workshop this issue of equity next year, and that each of the members ask a series of 2 or 3 very discrete research questions that you would like answered in preparation for next year's budget, so that you can lead the honing down of what information is most important. So that's one. Number two, this was raised earlier by me about, or somebody else, I'm sorry, about how are we going to incorporate this racial equity tool or the broader racial equity issue into our everyday business. This is not a criticism. I'm not just thinking about how we go forward. For example, the city manager's budget includes a cut to the Science Museum and to Mosaic. Okay? I mean, it's a tough budget, $66 million, a lot of choices to make, et cetera. Next year, hopefully that isn't a cut, and I know my letter may address this, but I digress. Next year, it seems to me that when the budget is presented, if that kind of cut is suggested, that the racial equity impact of it ought to be right next to the budget cut proposal. Because this shouldn't be a one-off or an after the fact. And that's, I think, a little bit of the danger, is that this is sort of a niche part of an important but niche part of what we do at a city, so it needs to be incorporated in the core documents, in the budget itself. And yes, we have to stare at that and look at it. And we still may decide, well, that cut needs to be made because we have no other choice. But the idea, like the environmental impact report, is to see the impact and then make the decision. So this needs information, and I just used the Mosaic as the example because it needs to be right up front in the budget presentation. Mr. Coletto should be, in part, presenting this next year because it's core to the budget, even if we have to make some difficult decisions. So that's number two. Number three, the reason why I think it is important for the council members to ask these discrete questions prior to the budget and sort of direct this is because it's easy to self-select what you want to put a racial equity lens on. Now, for example, Denise, great presentation. We picked the two cuts to administrative technician and one other position. I know as I'm reviewing the budget and preparing my letter, I'm looking at the $600,000 proposed cut in NDAT, which is the Neighborhood Development Action Teams. So I'm asking myself, why wasn't that the test case for the proposed cuts to the Office of Innovation and Economic Development? Because that to me is a lot more significant than the cut to a couple of, or eliminating a couple of vacant positions. So again, this is not, I'm not being critical as much as I'm observing for the future that the council needs to have some real say in the inputs here in terms of what is being asked for, so that it isn't just the staff choosing, and they all in good faith, choosing which parts of the budget they want to be subject to the racial equity analysis, and then we're not looking at NDAT, Neighborhood Development Action Team. So, to make this more powerful, I would urge you to re-watch this speech next February and go forward. Okay, thank you. Very good. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, auditor item.
We do have the auditor. Okay, so first, I know we do this so often to you, and it's 4:20. We do have a important closed session item, and council begins at 5. So we have two choices. We can go now if it's going to be relatively short, but I hate to short shrift you, or we could continue it to next week and make sure that you're high up on the agenda, Madam Clerk, for full presentation. Is that good? Okay, we'll continue, then let's continue the item to next week. Very good. Are there public testimony on items not on the agenda?
I have 3 speakers for items not on the agenda. Guy Stevenson, Julius, then Macworthy.
Mayor, City Council members, I agree with this lady, Dang, right here. You start cutting programs for the youth, and what's going to happen? They're going to get into trouble. They're going to get into drugs. The crime index for Sacramento is going to go skyrocket. You shouldn't do that. I talked to many, many kids within the last week, all the way from Vallejo, Walnut Creek, and the big thing that I talked about is get more involved in programs to keep yourself occupied. Then you stay away from the drugs, then you stay away from the guns, and then you make the job for the Sacramento police as well as other police departments more sustainable. You know what I mean? I mean, my thing about it is that I'm about public safety. But I'm also about youth, and I really don't want to see any kids end up in jail. I don't want to see them end up in drugs, because fentanyl is a big, big problem right here in this city, as well as across the bridge. So I'm asking you, please do not cut any youth programs, because you'll have people that are going to end up right over there on Broadway because they decided they wanted to test the waters and try the fentanyl. It's no good. And I'm just asking you, please don't cut any programs for the youth, and please don't cut the program and the pay for the Sacramento police as well as the fire department. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your comments. Julius, then Macworthy.
I want the American people to know that our free speech is under attack as you guys saw, an American citizen was arrested. Ryan Masano was arrested due to a false subpoena by Lynn Milstein, which I read some of that. If your name's Lynn, that's how you say it. On that subpoena, it said that Ryan had 2 F-bombs, which I was here on that day. He never cursed at her or anyone. Never said the F-bomb, never said F this or F that. So that's just false. And I want the American people to know that these people are liars. City council members, and sometimes, I don't want to say sometimes, but they lie. They make up lies. They arrest people for their right to free speech. This is why they only give us 2 minutes. I was in Davis last week, and even though Davis does give 2 minutes, when you're done with your speech, they let you continue on until you're done. They don't just cut your time in half and say, okay, thank you for your comments. They don't do that. They let you speak, and they even acknowledge that we're going to have a difference of opinion. They don't care what you say as long as it's respectful. But here in Sacramento, it's not like that. You can have people come up here with an agenda and talk about, oh, racial equity and it's privilege for white people, but black people are just oppressed because they're black. And that's so crazy. But if you talk about Jews, you talk about women, you talk about any of that homosexuality, transgenderism, these people would freak out and lose their minds because they don't know how to take honesty. And it's so crazy that we had an American citizen arrested for his free speech. And I was here that day. He never used the F-bomb. It is a complete lie. I was sitting right back there. It was a complete lie. So I want the American people to know that these politicians that you're voting for, they are liars, they're dishonest, they don't give a damn about you, and it's time to wake up from that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mac Worthy is our final speaker this afternoon.
May I iterate on that? Vallejo, Mayor, get on the news what they said when he made the speech down there. Now, I'll be in court with him. I was here that day, too. I'll definitely be in court. Now, what we see here on race equity, the same people brought the 60 movements in, that's the same bullshit coming in here on race equity. It's to choose out of a bag a group of people of who gets the job. How did I operate for 59 years and never put on an application from the federal government down a minority? The same people that funded that is funding the racial situation now. This young man, if I had his expertise in history, I'd take it to court of how this country went down, how black people went down. How many black people can come here and say, I met a payroll? What my payroll? Nothing. Nothing. Can't come here and say nothing. But see, this is going to come back to haunt you people. The same people that Martin King got killed about lying to his folks, it's the same people come here lying to you again. And that's the Jews. So wake up, people. We're going to be here.
Cut him off.
We're going to be here.
Cut him off.
You are your own prophet. Come to court when we go to court with this young man. We'll be there. Come to court.
Why are you cutting his free speech?
Come to court.
We're adjourned.
You're a weak, pathetic man.
Shut up.
You are.